On today's Minute of the Apes, our minutes finally sync up again.
Take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape!
Exercise put an ape-maker human down. Then talks. There's a divine bound.
We are determined to know what the apes want, war or peace.
The only good human is a dead human!
And if it is man's destiny one day to be dominated, then, oh, please, God, let him be dominated by such as you.
Hello and welcome to Minute of the Apes, the daily podcast where we break down every minute of the Planet of the Apes movies, 1 minute at a time. And we celebrate when watching two divergent versions of the same movie suddenly falls back in line. So it's minute 81. You heard Sean. Richard, are you over there? I think I see you.
I'm here.
All right, we're all here. We're rounding the corner. We're in the last full week of minutes. We've got a lot to discuss because this movie at this point starts doing some things where this is really where the differences begin to show up. So we'll hit those within the next 7 episodes. Let's get into it. Sean, what's going on with minute 81?
All right, we're doing the extended version here, the hour, 27-minute, and 22-second version. We're going to start minute 81 with Breck saying the savage that has to be shackled and chained, and ends with the governor being dragged in chains.
All right, let's take a listen to minute 81 of Conquest of the Planet of the Apes.
The savage has to be shackled in chains. You are that beast, Caesar. You taint us. You poison our guts. When we hate you, we're hating the dark side of ourselves. Take him. Go!
As of minute 81, we have a courtyard's worth of gorillas, chimpanzees, orangutans, imported apes, seizures. We lost apes in the revolution. We lost humans in the revolution. We've got a Armando plummeting out of a window. It's crazy.
So minute 81 is, as you heard, it's a lot of talk between the two, the protagonist and the antagonist, correct? I mean, there's nothing else to this minute.
Yeah, it's just the little speechification at the beginning and then being dragged away.
So I guess the big thing we can dig into is, what is Dehn doing here? What is Dehn trying to say? This obviously is the culmination of the entire movie. This is really what matters. This is the heart of it. What is he trying to say with this whole thing about the beast that we were trying to suppress?
I don't know. I think it's a lot of projection, personally. He does a lot of inclusive speak. We hate you. We don't like you. I mean, obviously, not all humans hated the apes. Armando loved them. So, I think it's a little bit of projection.
What I don't get when we hate you, we're hating the dark side of ourselves. Like I don't know how that relates to apes. And then I even kind of put myself back on if we're talking specific about race and slavery. And I still don't understand why you would
hate yourself because you hate them.
I hate a group of people because they remind me of the dark side of myself. That would imply that the person that you're dealing with is actually evil, right? I mean, if you were the dark side of myself, what are you doing that is so offensive that I find it evil, that I find it troublesome? that I can't relate myself to you. That's why that's why the dark side of ourselves just throws me a little bit, because I can't place that on a group or a group of people where I find them so villainous or terrible that they're the dark side of me.
I thought the same thing. I kind of, and that's a very loose kind of, understood what he wanted to draw here. And I think that if he's going to use a direct correlation to slavery that existed within America and probably throughout all of mankind, I would understand if he said, we were looking at you and we saw, I don't know, the weaker side of ourselves, and we could feel our dominance. Then that's an argument where you start to say, okay, why did people ever feel like they could enslave another human? They immediately degraded who they were, blah, 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 blah. But that argument's not had, and I thought the same thing. I was like, this doesn't make a lot of sense. I wanted to enslave you because you were this part of the same thing. It didn't make...
Right.
And I hate it for Dehn, because Dehn usually at least kind of puts the right thoughts in there. This time I felt like it was just, like a fart in the wind.
Like a turd in the wind.
Now, so if we're thinking about this from the perspective of Breck already has a skewed view of everything. So I can kind of forgive that this is what Breck is thinking as opposed to what Dehn is trying to say. Right. On some level, but it still doesn't really answer. I still never got what happened to make Breck hate apes so much. Yeah, if we maybe had more of that backstory, this speech right here might make a little more sense. Maybe, I don't know. We have this big moment, and it just kind of culminates in this thing where he's trying to make a relationship why apes and humans have this adversarial, relationship, and it just doesn't quite gel.
Especially as a moment that, and I kind of already said this in the pre-pro moment, Richard, while you were still connecting. I said this, Sean, here we get into the end of this movie, and really the truth of the two differences of the two versions of the film are character and softening the violence. And what I mean by that is, that, okay, let's immediately say they take a lot of shots out of the end of this film for the theatrical version, so it's not quite as bloody violent. But the bigger thing when you watch the two, and I think I may be the only one of the three of us who watched the unrated and went back and watched the theatrical to compare it. And so this moment, the reason I have to say that is this moment is meant to set up Caesar's final evolution as a character and what he does at the end of the film. And even that... And I have to jump into that fast forward machine, because when you get to what Caesar, how he behaves at the end, this speech misses its opportunity to cloud his head, because he gets to the point, he was raised by a peaceful, loving human who tried to tell him these things. Right now, the war in his head should be between that sweet innocence and loveliness of Armando and the hate he feels for this man, and this logic doesn't do anything to fan those flames of hate.
Well, okay. So if we're saying that this is about Caesar's transformation for the upcoming moments, then yes, Breck is trying to call them savages. Breck is trying to call them evil at this point to kind of tip Caesar into anger. But it could be sharper. Yes. If that's the point, if the point that we just find out just what an ass Breck is, really is at this moment, rather than an enlightening moment about why their relationship is, but how much of an ass Breck is to push Caesar even further along, it needs to be a sharper piece of hate. It needs to be more hateful than it is, or it needs to be more enlightening. One of the two. It's kind of we're in the middle somewhere.
I think that. Again, jumping into the fast forward machine, there's a point at this film later on where two principal actors have an argument that is asking each other questions. And those questions build upon, if that's what you think, then what about this? And I think that's really strong dialogue writing when you don't answer the question for the audience and you ask the questions so that makes them think. What I would have loved here, fine, if you're going to have the illogical BS that Breck throws out, Caesar could have echoed something. I don't know what it would be. I'd have to go back and watch. That Armando has said. He should have answered something here with something that he learned from Armando, so that those two voices battle against each other. And Caesar's just sticking to the cause of I'm pissed off that you're saying this and I'm going to beat you in the head with a rifle. I actually kind of wonder if, yes, Breck is not making a lot of sense, but Caesar not saying thing is the weaker part of the scene.
Oh, I see. Yeah, you're right. So you want a little more back and forth between the two characters rather than just
something.
Caesar's becoming the tormentor. Caesar's becoming the Caesar and Breck's roles almost flip, except Breck is not now subservient. Like maybe if the roles had flipped a little bit, so we could see Caesar's kind of descent into a little more madness related to this. Or Breck needs to be a little more provoking, or Breck needs to be a little more begging. If Breck were begging at this particular moment, we could see Caesar take his role. I don't know.
Which is an interesting idea, that when you've got somebody as, Machiavellian as Breck has been, suddenly to be a whimpering fool of begging. I just think that Caesar's wisdom should be that he's able to see past what Breck's saying, but maybe Breck's final comment is what tweaks even that thought just a little bit, so that Caesar turns a corner, because it's just like Caesar. I'm brought of mind of the prequels where people just all of a sudden are evil. They're just all of a sudden angry, and they don't earn that.
Yeah, we always come back to Star Wars.
We do. Everything comes back to Star Wars.
Look, Anakin hated him. He just hated the women and the children. He killed them all.
Oh.
But you're right. I mean, Caesar in this moment, building up this moment, this anger, should be. He loved Armando. Right. He loved Armando. So this inability to see any type of humanity in humanity, this inability to see something in Breck or even McDonald at this point is just kind of a real sudden, you said, rush to anger. It's a real flip for the character without having anything going here. I kind of almost wonder if Breck's dialogue, this moment where if Breck, the personality, weren't quite so strong in his delivery of these lines, and he were more begging. You're the savage that we need to shackle and change. You taint us, Caesar. Like if he maybe were a little more humble when doing these lines, if it would come across as the roles were reversed. Yeah. I don't know.
I totally see that. I mean, I see that. Again, I think that you take somebody that is a pure villain. We've not had a moment that peels back, and we talked about this long ago in this film. Moments that peel back a character and expose why they are what they are. Gary Oldman's character comes to mind in the middle of the new films. We see a moment where we understand. We're just given a glimpse into who he is and why he's doing what he's doing. If we'd had any of this, then when he's on the ground, if he becomes fearful, then that creates that bigger character, because we've seen that inner thing that's driving him, and here's the fear that's fueling his hatred.
Right.
And I think that's important. And Breck just, man, it just kind of kills it. And again, I hate it for Caesar, because I'd never caught this before, but Caesar just becomes angry for no reason.
Right. Well, he's become the savage.
Yes. Well, that's an interesting thing.
He's become what Breck is saying that they are.
Well,
right?
Not necessarily, because he has that chance to beat him with a rifle, and he doesn't. He stops himself. I'm surprised they didn't go for and he swings, and they cut and show that he deliberately missed Breck.
So if we're going off of Dehn's script, this is verbatim. Mm-hmm. The moment where Caesar tries to strike Breck with the butt of his rifle is not in the script. Okay. It goes straight from, when we hate you, we're hating the dark side of ourselves. Caesar's eyes blaze with anger. He gestures to some apes behind him, and he yells, "Take him." So that whole little moment there with the butt of the gun coming up and coming down as if he's about to kill him was not originally in the script, but the dialogue is spot
on. Of course, I'm thinking to myself, "Oh, sure, now go works." They all obey him. Don't obey humans when they say go, stop, go. But Caesar does it. They're Johnny on the spot. I'm surprised they didn't do something instead of having the governor in chains, like body surfing him above the crowd, so that all the apes are just moving him forward. And he has no choice going.
So this is going to be a weird, just kind of aside in watching the scenes. Watching Breck struggle from up above, to when he comes down here to the ground. I think he's wearing a piece. His hair is